but clear spells for the southern half of the UK. I think Manchester northwards will see thicker cloud through the night and showers or longer spells of rain. That only lasts a few hours, and then by the early hours of Friday, mostly the wet weather is to the north of the central belt, and further south there will be cloudy conditions, but actually a lot of fine weather as we start off Friday. 10 to 12 degrees for many of us. Still a keen breeze, particularly for Scotland, where we'll also see further rain or showers in the north and west of the country. I think brighter skies for southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern England, but a lot of cloud around. Sunny skies, though, on Friday afternoon for a large part of the south of England, as well as much of Wales. 21 Celsius in London, feeling pleasant enough with the sunny spells. 14 there for Glasgow. And then into the weekend, high pressure builds quite widely, and that means Saturday looks like a fine day for most. Plenty of warm sunshine. Temperatures are rising as well. However, on Saturday night and into Sunday, that could cause some storms.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubilee, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubilee, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Moroki on your TV, radio and online. We've got an absolutely massive show for you today, 10 until 12.
Yes, indeed, and get in touch with your views, as usual, GBviews at gbnews.uk, and we'll get to those throughout the show. But first, let's give you the latest headlines.
Good morning, it's 1 minute past 10. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Finland's leaders say the nation must apply for NATO membership without delay after decades of neutrality. Sweden is also likely to follow suit. It's after the two Nordic countries signed security pacts with the UK, which could see British troops deployed in the event of an attack by Russia. Security experts fear the move could anger Moscow, which sees NATO's expansion as a direct threat to its own security. The Finnish Foreign Minister, Pekka Haavisto, says membership would strengthen security.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has altered the European and Finnish security environment. However, Finland is not facing an immediate military threat. Should Finland decide to apply, the accession of Finland would strengthen the security and stability of the Baltic Sea region and Northern Europe. Finland is a regional security provider and would further strengthen NATO as a future ally.
In Ukraine, the United Nations Human Rights Chief has said that over 1,000 civilian bodies have been recovered in the Kiev region alone, and that the civilian death toll in Mariupol is in the thousands. That as there's been a massive explosion at the Azovstal steelworks in the besieged port city, as officials say Russia's pressing on with its assault on the plant. It's believed at least 100 civilians and wounded fighters are still sheltering there. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says Ukraine's maintaining their counterattack to the north of Kharkiv, recapturing several towns and villages towards the Russian border. The Attorney General has received legal advice that it would be lawful for the UK to override part of the post-Brexit trade agreements in Northern Ireland. That, as the Foreign Secretary holds crunch talks with the European Commission on Northern Ireland, ministers will decide whether to alter the protocol deal. Liz Truss is expected to tell them the dispute can't drag on. The DUP have said they need the agreement to be changed before they'll rejoin the power-sharing agreement in Stormont. New figures this morning show the UK economy grew by 0.8% between January and March. The Office for National Statistics says it's down from 1.3% in the previous 3 months. It's the slowest pace Britain's economy has grown for a year and comes amid fears the cost of living crisis may plunge the UK into recession. Serial killer Levi Bellfield is engaged and has requested a prison wedding, the Ministry of Justice has confirmed. Bellfield serving 2 whole-life orders for murdering Marsha MacDonald, Emily Delagrange and Millie Dowler. Prisons Minister Victoria Atkins says she's ordered an immediate review into the request, branding the proposed wedding as absolutely appalling. A Labour MP has told GB News she suffered sexual harassment whilst at Cambridge University. Stella Creasy said she was threatened with gang rape, but college authorities admonished her complaints instead of punishing the abusers. The university apologised for what it called a horrific ordeal, saying steps have since been taken to improve reporting incidents of abuse. You can watch the exclusive interview with Gloria Di Piero later today.
I was in a room with them all and they threatened to gang rape me. It took public humiliation and posters and finally other people coming forward and me collating the evidence of all the notes, the spitting in my room, the rubbish that was thrown at me, the sexual abuse and harassment if I tried to walk into the bar that came from this group of young men.
And you can watch that interview in full on Gloria Di Piero's The Briefing from 12. Sadiq Khan has announced the first London Drugs Commission to consider decriminalising cannabis and other drugs in the UK. As part of the Mayor of London's 4-day tour of the US, he visited a cannabis farm in LA to see what lessons the UK could learn about the challenges of drugs. He praised what he called high standards of legalised cannabis farms in the country. Police are treating a teenage girl's disappearance in Bristol as child abduction. 15-year-old Madison Thomas, known as Maddie, hasn't been seen since she left her foster parents' home in Southmead area 15 days ago. Officers believe she's likely to be with a man. They're appealing to anyone with any information to come forward. Now, if you live on the Scilly Isles or in the Hebrides, you could soon be receiving your post by drone. The Royal Mail's creating 50 new postal drone routes for deliveries over the next 3 years, replacing land, sea and air services that could be affected by bad weather. Shetland and Orkney Islands are also among the first routes, which are expected to be faster and more convenient for more remote communities. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens now, though. It's back to Patrick and Mercy with To The Point.
Good morning, it's 10:07 and this is To The Point on GB News with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christie's on your TV, radio and online. Our show for you this morning is packed with top stories of the day, big discussions and of course lots of opinions too. So here's what's coming up.
Yes, police in Bristol believe that a missing 15-year-old girl has been abducted. Maddie Thomas has not been seen since she left her home in Southmead 2 weeks ago, saying that she was going to the shops. We'll bring you the very latest on this very concerning story.
Yes, and the Home Office is expected to start to issue asylum seekers their notices for relocation to Rwanda this week as they publish analysis predicting 65,000 more people will illegally cross the channel this year. So, should we be spending more on our national national security and borders? Well, a parliamentary committee thinks so. I suspect many of you do too. We'll have more on that later.
And finally, as wife of legendary footballer Peter Shilton reveals her struggles with her husband's chronic gambling addiction, we'll be debating whether the government should be doing more to better protect and support people. We've got two politicians on opposite sides of this fence, so we're going to basically have a massive debate for you.
Yes, and we've got much more coming up as well. We're here for 2 hours until midday, so stay tuned for lots of discussion today. And gbviews@gbnews.uk is the email if you want to get in touch. We encourage everybody to do so, but first, Patrick gives his views on
Rwanda. This Rwanda deal, I'm becoming increasingly sceptical. And the reason why I'm becoming increasingly sceptical is because of headlines a little bit like this one. First illegal migrants to be told about relocation this week. And then the line underneath, in much smaller print, reads, first flights expected to leave in the coming months. So, people who arrive here illegally may or may not be told they're going to Rwanda, and they may or may not be sent there in the next few months. It's hardly convincing stuff, is it? And it's hardly a deterrent either. Now, I'm concerned about a few elements of this. So firstly, that we've just been lied to, which I hope we haven't been. I'm concerned that Rwanda might be a big smokescreen, a delaying tactic. I'm concerned that the Home Office and Boris actually don't think they can do anything about illegal immigration. They knew that they had the local elections coming up and thought that they'd come up with a plan that they have no intention really of seeing through, and it would basically be used as a big delaying tactic. I'm concerned that if you tell people in these ridiculous asylum seeker hotels that they're going to be deported, quotes, in a few months' time, then they'll just abscond. I've been to one of these hotels. The security was basically one spotty-faced teenager sat in a car on his phone. I mean, I just walked straight past him and into the hotel. So it's hardly beyond the realms of possibility, is it, that some of these people could just walk the other way and never be seen again. I'm also concerned about the wider security threat to the public. Before the Guardian and the usual worthy types jump on me for what I'm about to say, no, I do not actually think that the vast majority of these people pose a risk to the public. But the plain fact of the matter is we don't know who a lot of these people are or what their state of mind is. And so, if we annoy them by saying that we're going to deport them to Africa and then don't do it immediately, who knows what could happen? There was, of course, a certain chap in Liverpool who had his asylum claim rejected. We let him stay here for years, and then he tried to blow up a hospital full of women and newborn babies. We need to get a move on, don't we? But now we're already being told about future plans. There'll be more Rwanda-style deals. OK, all right, well, what does that actually mean? Because as it currently stands, that still means no deportations, it still means no deterrent. In fact, this pathetic line came out today. There is a hope that the scheme will soon deter further people from making the channel crossings. Right, well, that won't happen until we see planes taking off. In terms of this Rwanda deal, I'll believe it when I see it. Right, yes, OK, all right. I mean, it's an interesting one, this. I don't really think it's necessarily going to happen.
Yeah. Look, we're going to be stuck in to this very shortly. But before all that, hold that thought, because we're just going to bring you some breaking news. The Met Police say that more than 100 further fines have been handed out in relation to the investigation into breaches of COVID-19 regulations in Whitehall and Downing Street. So Partygate is still alive and kicking. Well, our Home and Security editor, Mark White, joins us now to bring us the latest. This has just come out. Mark, 100 more fines.
Yeah, it's never ending, this story, of course, and the Prime Minister, others in government braced for the possibility that other fixed penalty notices were likely to be sent out by the Metropolitan Police as part of Operation Hillman. We know that a number of fixed penalty notices have already been sent out, including one to the Prime Minister and one to the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, for that birthday party that they attended, or that impromptu presentation of a birthday cake in Downing Street on the 19th of June. Yes, indeed. So a number of other events that took place in and around Downing Street in 2020, 2021 that were investigated by, or are being investigated by, the Metropolitan Police. And now Scotland Yard confirming to us that 100 fixed penalty notices have been sent out. I think it is improbable that the Prime Minister has not been included in another fixed penalty. We're told by Downing Street that as and when he receives a fixed penalty notice, we will be informed. So now that the Metropolitan Police have confirmed that these other notices have been sent out. Now, this process, I should say, has been continuing. It was not made public for obvious reasons during the local elections last week, so that's why we've not been hearing about them. But the process was continuing throughout that, so these notifications were being sent out to these 100 individuals. It may not be 100 individuals, maybe fewer than that. Maybe people are being fined more than once, but 100 notifications that have gone out. So we wait to hear, as I say, from Downing Street as to whether the Prime Minister is included. But we know that he attended a number of other events which were under investigation by the Metropolitan Police. So fined once, potentially facing other fines.
Goodness me. All right, well, look, Mark, thank you very much. This is very, very fresh, as I'm sure you could tell, ladies and gentlemen. It's literally just come through, so you'll be bringing us up to date as this story develops, as it no doubt will. Mark White, thank you very much, as usual. Right, OK, gosh. Well, an action-packed start to the show here, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it? Took us all a bit by surprise, but moving away from that and kind of back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that Home Secretary Priti Patel has now claimed that the first batch of illegal migrants have been warned that they face deportation to Rwanda.
Yes, this comes as Home Office Minister Tom Pursgloves told the Home Affairs Select Committee that the agreement to send migrants to Rwanda may be one of many. He said, and I quote, "I doubt it will be the last of those sorts of agreements that are reached involving countries around the world, but I genuinely do believe there will be a deterrent effect."
OK, well, I mean, that's exactly what they're supposed to do, isn't it? But we will be going to some of your views in a little bit, so make sure that you get in touch with us. In fact, we can go to a couple right now, because Heather actually wrote in and said, as the Rwanda scheme only applies to migrants who arrived this year, what is going to happen to the thousands of migrants who arrived last year and are currently in taxpayer-funded hotels? Where will they go? Where will they live? I can shed a little bit of light on that for you, because actually the Home Office has been in touch with local councils and basically said they're going to stop bidding for private rental stock in their areas. So sometimes they could be next door to you, I suppose.
Yes, well, just how much of a deterrent will the government's plan prove to be? They have said, of course, they intend them to be a deterrent, and that's sort of the main purpose of these plans. But joining us in the studio to discuss all of this is Alp Mehmet, who's a former immigration officer, Britain's first migrant ambassador and chairman of the organisation Migration Watch UK. Thank you for joining us this morning. Look, we've spoken to you about this before, and you said you don't think this is necessarily the best way plan forward. It's a plan. Do you think it will end up working? Because, look, the initial indications are that it's all a bit of a mess.
Well, I don't disagree with that last point. It's a bit confusing at the moment. I readily agree. However, as I've said to both of you before, Rwanda was never going to be, on its own, the answer. It's part of the solution. And I think, in the end, if it actually is put into practice, along with some of other measures that the government is considering, then I think it will have the effect of deterring people from paying pots of money, frankly, to jump into boats to come over.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned money, because, look, hey, it's no secret that I think something desperately needs to be done about what's going on in the Channel and probably our wider immigration system as a whole, actually. But in terms of the cost of this, a lot was made initially, we're spending around a huge amount of money. If we start doing this with deals with a load of other countries as well, is it cost-effective? Because it's actually costing us a lot now to keep them here. But would this kind of thing be cost-effective, in your view, do you think?
Well, it will be cost-effective if it stops the boats, if it stops people jumping in the backs of lorries, if it stops people who don't just come in across the Channel in lorries and boats, but those who come here perfectly legally and then just stay here illegally. So there's a lot to be done. This is a complex issue, and I think that the government, to be fair, the first time they've made a real effort to address it, everyone is suddenly jumping on the bandwagon of criticising the government for it not working yet 2 weeks after it was put in place.
I believe you heard my monologue. Yes, apologies for that, Al. But no, I'm just trying to put the squeeze on a little bit, really, because I do want to see planes start to take off, because otherwise I don't think it is a deterrent. But just in terms of who else might be sent to places like Rwanda, we are hearing now, unconfirmed, but potentially some Ukrainian refugees who might arrive here illegally. I suppose the point is that they shouldn't come here illegally?
Well, that was a lot made of something that one of the officials said, who didn't rule it out in the usual officials' way and the legal way. Well, you can't be absolutely 99% certain. However, if you are 99% certain, there's still that 1%, and it was really the 1% that he was probably pointing to. And he said, you can't rule it out. It is possible, but it's not going to happen. That's the point.
OK.
And I want to ask you about the sort of identity aspects in this, and bear with me, I'll explain, because we did hear headlines this week, or last week it was actually, that if LGBT people are sent there, for example, they might still be sent there even if they're discriminated against, because Rwanda's not prolific for its treatment of LGBT people. There's also the issue of, look, if a child comes over, they won't be deported. That's the government policy. Women and children will not. Won't we just have an influx of people saying, look, I'm a child, lying about their age, or people saying, actually, I identify as a woman, so you can't deport me? Because I would, if I was one of these, I would game the system if those are the rules.
Well, I'm sure that if there are those who think they can get away with that line, they will try it. However, the fact is that 70% of those coming over in boats are, in fact, working-age men. It's those that need to be really dealt with in the first instance. And if that happens, then perhaps more young men won't be paying pots of money, as I said earlier, to come over.
Just very quickly, in terms of the security threat, potential security threat, if you tell someone they're going to be deported and then you leave it years, for example, actually that could pose a risk, because that can breed contempt, it can breed anger, can't it? How quickly do we need to, once the decision's been made, basically get people out of there?
Well, having been an immigration officer and an entry clearance officer, the moment you say to people no, they will get upset.
Of course.
They're angry. So what, frankly? What we've got to do is do the job properly and make sure that those who we're saying no to are not in a position to harm us.
Al, thank you very, very much. I'll have to come back in the studio more often. I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Al Mehmet there, of course, a regular friend of GB News, chairman of Migration Watch UK, amongst many other things.
Yes, we've got lots more coming up on our programme this morning. Again, we're here till midday, as usual. And you can listen to Gloria De Piero's interview with a Labour MP just after our show. She's going to be speaking or she did speak to Stella Creasy.
Did she bring a baby with her this time, no?
Don't know if she did, actually, but that's only on GB News. It is an exclusive, and she revealed to Gloria the sexual harassment she experienced as a student at the University of Cambridge. Here's a preview of what's in store for later.
I was in a room with them all and they threatened to gang rape me. It took public humiliation and posters and finally other people coming forward and me collating the evidence of all the notes, the spitting in my room, the rubbish that was thrown at me, the sexual abuse and harassment if I tried to walk into the bar that came from this group of young men.
Yeah, look, as we say, that is an exclusive interview with GB News, Stella Creasy speaking there to Gloria De Piero, who you can watch straight after this show at around midday.
Indeed. Right, well, after the break, MPs say our country is falling behind in the global arms race, leaving us vulnerable to Russia and China. How has this been allowed to happen? Interesting points, these, actually, because do you feel as though we're giving a lot to things like Ukraine, etc.? Well, actually, we should be keeping a bit to ourselves, or is it necessary? Big debate, that, big discussion, but we'll find out all about that after the weather.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. Dry, bright and a bit breezy sums up the weather for most today. It won't be completely dry. There will be some showers across western Scotland and Northern Ireland caused by this little weather feature which is slowly drifting in. For most places, though, it is going to be a fairly benign kind of weather day. Yes, there's a fair bit of cloud around, but some places seeing some decent spells of sunshine, parts of eastern England in particular, and at times across parts of northern England, some sunshine on the south coast as well. But generally a lot of cloud, but a lot of dry weather for England, Wales and eastern Scotland. But northwest Scotland's staying fairly soggy, and there'll be a few showers drifting into the west of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. A cooler feel here as well with a brisk breeze. Elsewhere, temperatures around average, high teens, maybe up to 20 in the sunshine across Essex and Kent. As we go through this evening, we'll see a bit more of that showery rain drifting south through southern Scotland into northern England, North Wales, maybe even a shower or two over Lincolnshire and the Midlands for a time. But that all scoots away by dawn, and again, most of us will start Friday dry. Quite a mild night, double digits in many towns and cities. On to Friday, and quite a lot of clouds. Certainly initially, the sunshine fairly hazy over England and Wales, but generally a fine day here. Dry and bright too for Northern Ireland with some sunshine. Again, it'll be northwestern parts of Scotland that see the rain, spreading more widely across the Northern Isles through the day. Quite soggy across the Highlands, but through the central belt, southern Scotland, most places dry. Plenty of afternoon sunshine across England and Wales, and a warmer day as well. Temperatures could get up to 23 across the eastern parts of England. There will be a bit more of a breeze blowing during Friday, but still very pleasant conditions through Friday evening. Still a few scattered showers across the northwest, but for most places, high pressure is moving in during Friday, and that will bring most of us a fine day on Saturday as well, with some warm sunshine. There is the likelihood, though, of some thunderstorms coming up from the south on Saturday night and Sunday.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. It's 10:26. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, and Mercy Moroki on GB News Live, as ever, on your TV, online and radio this morning.
Yes, now the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee has warned that the British military is falling behind major hostile powers like China and Russia. In a damning new report, the committee accused the Ministry of Defence of undermining national security through wasteful procurement, a cover-up culture, and failing to take account of new technologies developed by those hostile states.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're delighted to be joined now by Andrew Brooks, a former RAF pilot, aerospace expert and fellow of both the Royal Aeronautical Society and the Royal United Services Institute. Just about got that out of my mouth. There we go. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us in the studio as well. Well, look, is there any truth in this then? Are we falling behind?
Yes, but there's perfectly good reasons which the MPs really haven't highlighted. And dare I say, the biggest problem is the politicians themselves. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to blame civil servants and industry and everybody else, But it's the politicians who eventually say, I'm sorry, you've got to build this in the UK, or you've got to build it in my constituency, or blah, 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 blah. So I think, yes, they're highlighted problems, but they haven't really highlighted the solution, which is often in themselves.
And back to this report, it says there was a cover-up culture. That's one of the things that it accused it, and it said failing to take account of new technologies developed by hostile state. When people hear cover-up culture and things like that, it does worry them because, you know, we understand that some defence things have to be kept secret. Yeah. Of course we do. But what are they covering up? Is it things the public would need to know?
No, I think it's more cover-up in terms of covering up the cock-ups, if you like, for want of a technical phrase. I don't think it's covering up secrets. It's just that you've got this great bureaucracy. Large of it is based on people who've been there for a long time, but aren't really modern technology people. There might be civil servants, and I'm not knocking them, but you got to think this is technology that's way 10, 15 years hence. How can we predict what's required 10, 15 years hence? And, of course, it's very easy when somebody says, "Yeah, boo," to say, well, it's not me, Gov, I'm terribly sorry. And I think that's the cover-up they're talking about, that people are ducking and weaving for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that we're being left behind, I can understand that maybe countries with a larger economy or, frankly, who invest more into their defence side of things are potentially ahead of us. But that said, we've been giving a load of weapons to Ukraine and they seem to be using them remarkably well against the Russians.
Yes, and it's brilliant from technology point of view. Every one of those weapons is now going to have a bumper sticker on saying, tried and tested.
This works.
It works. Yeah. And everybody around the world...
Apparently sorry to interrupt, but we saw apparently Russia's most high-tech tank obliterated by one of these things the other day.
And yet their high-tech tank, look at that. It's not what the army wanted, it's what the politicians insisted they got. They'd embellished it, there was corruption. That tank, the Soviets, I would call them that, but the Russians now have, actually isn't what the army wanted, but it was what they were given by politicians who wanted a kickback. Now, whatever we say, our politicians don't take a kickback, it's just they want to look after their own interests in their constituencies.
And lots of emails we get in say, look, we're seeing all this money being spent on defence and for good reason. Of course, much of it's going to Ukraine. But they say we're having a cost of crisis here at home. You know, we should be spending more money there instead, domestically. Is there still a strong case to be made in times like this for spending more on defence?
But if you were to go to Lancashire and add up all the jobs in Lancashire that are dependent on defence, and I'm talking high-grade stuff here, we're not talking about logo, we're talking about really cutting-edge technology. Every constituency probably got 10, 20, maybe 100, 200 subcontractors there looking for British aerospace. If you took all that away, what would that do? It decimate the economy of the northwest of England. So you have to look at it in that terms. We have to be looking after... We keep talking about we're a low-tech, low productivity. Defence is one of the high-tech areas which we can excel in. What we have to do is be more cunning about how we employ it and how we do it properly with allies.
Exactly. I've been many times to Barrow-in-Furness, where we've got the submarine building there that goes on, and it's massively impressive to see that. Massively impressive. And like you said, the amount of people who are employed in that area. I mean, that is an area. If that closed down, actually, it would be thousands of people would be out of a job. It'd kill the area. So we surely could be putting more money into this. But do you feel as though, just moving away from this slightly, that actually what's been going on in Ukraine has shown us in quite a good light? We've been giving these weapons to Ukrainians. Like I've said, they've been using them pretty well. And actually, Britain has emerged rather well out of all of this.
We have. We just have to build on that. You're talking about Barrow-in-Furness.
Yeah.
Not one submarine we build up there is for export.
Yes.
Now, the Germans don't do that. They build a submarine to use themselves, but to export it. We tend to gold-plate it, and admirals come in and say, oh, we've got to have this special, this, that, and the other. But then it makes unsellable to anybody else. We have to change that philosophy. Keep building them in Barrow, but also optimise to sell them around the world to cover the costs. If you just go for a gold-plated British solution, you'll end up, yes, having a wonderful system in Barrow, but it doesn't cover its costs. So again, we have to change the culture somewhere to have an exportable destroyer, an exportable submarine.
And very finally, what's been happening in Ukraine has rallied lots of Ukrainians, particularly young men, to stand up and fight for their country, and they're often left no choice in many cases. In this country, we have seen numbers going down in terms of recruits for the army. You're a former Royal Air Force pilot. Would you still encourage young men today to put themselves forward and join the army?
And young women.
And young women?
Young women, definitely, because it's getting more and more high-tech. I worry about the army because at the end of the day, infantry doesn't have a sort of a great NVQ at the end of it. Whereas the Navy and Air Force tend to, when you come out, you've got a wonderful sellable skill. And it's a great life for young people to learn a skill, cyber, all this modern stuff we talk about. So yes, I would encourage it. And it's terrible to say this, but while we were fighting in Northern Ireland or Afghanistan, Iraq, people came for the thrill of combat. And what worries me is if you don't have any combat, a lot of people think, well, I'm bored about this. So it's terrible indictment, but young men and women love action.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have to find some action for them to do.
Well, on that note...
I'll see you in Soho. OK, all right, thank you very much, Andrew. Great to see you on the show. I can't believe we've not had you in the studio before, actually.
Yeah,
Andrew Brooks there, former RAF pilot, aerospace expert and fellow of both the Royal Aeronautical Society and the Royal United Services Institute. Got it out again.
Well done, well done.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Mercy.
Well, now, after the break, we'll be discussing gambling and gambling addiction. Should the gambling industry face tougher regulation? That's our big gambling debate after this morning's news.
Good morning, it's 10:33. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. In the last half hour, the Met Police says it's made more than 100 referrals for fixed penalty notices in relation to COVID breaches in Whitehall and Downing Street. The investigation is ongoing. More on that as we get it. Finland's leaders say the nation must apply for NATO membership without delay after decades of neutrality. Sweden's also likely to follow suit. It's after the two Nordic countries signed security pacts with the UK, which could see British troops deployed in the event of an attack by Russia. Security experts fear this could anger Moscow, which sees NATO expansion as a direct threat to its own security. To Ukraine, the United Nations Human Rights Chief has said over 1,000 civilian bodies have been recovered in the Kiev region alone and that the civilian death toll in Mariupol is in the thousands. Earlier, there was another large explosion at the Azovstal steelworks in the besieged port city. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says Ukraine's maintaining their counterattack to the north of Kharkiv, recapturing several towns and villages towards the Russian border. The UK economy grew by 0.8% between January and March, the slowest pace for a year. The Office for National Statistics says it's down from 1.3% in the previous 3 months. It comes amid fears the cost of living crisis may plunge the UK into recession. A Labour MP has told GB News she suffered sexual harassment whilst at Cambridge University. Stella Creasy says she was threatened with gang rape, but when she complained, college authorities admonished her instead of punishing the abusers. In a statement, the university apologised for what it called a horrific ordeal. You can listen to the exclusive interview with Gloria De Piero on The Briefing at 12:40. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.22 to the dollar, the pound is 1.17 to the euro, and the price of gold currently stands at £1,518.31 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News, investments that matter.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubery and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubery, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 10:38 a.m. and this is To The Point with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christys on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning.
We certainly are. Now, Steph Shilton, wife of England goalkeeping legend Peter Shilton, has opened up about her husband's gambling addiction. So Peter apparently kept his gambling a secret for 45 years and lost millions of pounds.
Yes, while Steph told the I newspaper, quote, he lost everything he earned in his career ended up with the bookies. Although this is a high-profile example, of course, it's by no means the only one. Last autumn, the Public Health England published a landmark report into gambling harms and finding that it cost society at least £1.27 billion and that gender, socioeconomic background and alcohol consumptions were key factors.
So, should there be tougher controls on the gambling industry? Well, joining us to discuss this topic is Labour MP for Swansea East, Carolyn Harris, who's been campaigning for more regulation on the gambling industry. And then on the other side, we've got Christopher Snowdon from the Institute of Economic Affairs, who's written a paper warning of the risks of over-regulating the gambling industry. Thank you very, very much for us. Look, Christopher, I'll start with you. I know we've spoken about this before, but actually I was listening to the radio the other day, GB News on the radio, and there are some adverts on some sites where it's basically gambling adverts, but the whole advert is about gamble responsibly because if you don't, this will ruin your life. That's their advert. That's just the advert. Surely this is bad.
Well, it's bad that all the gambling adverts are basically anti-gambling adverts. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that might make me lean towards banning them, is constantly being lectured by gambling companies about responsible gambling. People complain about gambling adverts. Mainly they complain about them just because there's so many of them, and they complain about gambling sponsorship in football because so many teams are sponsored by them. That is largely because gambling advertising is so restricted on television. It can't be on before 9 o'clock, and they don't even put them on now in the breaks between and before and after football games. So you've got a relatively limited amount of space and time to put gambling advertising on, and you've got a lot of gambling companies. Over time, the industry will coalesce. There'll be fewer and fewer companies. At the moment, there's a lot of them out there fearing a ban on advertising, which actually encourages them, ironically, to advertise more. But over time, you're not going to see half the Premiership sponsored by gambling companies because it will just naturally. There'll be winners and losers, and the big companies that get their brand well known will succeed, and the other ones will tail off, I think.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, before we go to Carolyn, ask your opinion on the morality of gambling and the economic argument for gambling, because you said sort of what you anticipate to happen with the industry, but what do you think is the right thing? Because you hear the argument with cigarettes and alcohol, for example, which are regulated, and people say, well, actually, if you over-regulate them, you're actually taking money out of the economy. You hear that argument a lot because of taxes. Is there a moral case and an economic case to deregulate or promote even gambling?
Oh, Christopher, I think that was
Christopher, yes, that was you. Yeah. That was for you, Christopher.
That was for me, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a moral case to deregulate it? Well, I mean, I think regulation in Britain, generally speaking, is pretty good for gambling, and we have a thriving gambling industry. It is very important that you do have, I think, branding, sponsorship, advertising, because it's still a relatively new industry, the online industry. And there is still a sort of Wild West out there on the internet that isn't regulated at all. The online industry is regulated much more than people make out. And so it is important that, if you're a gambler and you're going on the internet, you want to know that this is a company that pays taxes in Britain, is regulated in Britain. And advertising and sponsorship is a really good way of doing that, because a company, by sponsoring, for example, a Premiership football team, is saying, we're here to stay. We've got enough money to do this. We are a serious company, not a fly-by-night company. So sponsorship and advertising doesn't just help the gambling companies, it does help the punter. And also, of course, it helps sport. There's a huge amount of money in sport. I'm a big fan of snooker. Okay. It'd be devastating for snooker if gambling advertising was sponsorship was banned.
OK, all right, it's time now. Finally, she's just been sitting there looking resplendent with that wonderful hair, but now it's time to actually hear from her. It's Labour MP for Swansea East, Carolyn Harris. Look, Carolyn, I have only put one bet on in my life and the horse died, which actually stopped me from putting any more on. Do you think that the gambling industry is a bit grotesque and it profits off people's misery?
Short answer, yes. And that is purely down to what Chris want to hear, the moral argument. I deal with people who have taken their lives, lost their homes, lost their families, and the regulation that's currently there is based on the 2005 Act. If I tell you the iPhone wasn't even invented till 2007, then you will understand how technology has developed so much faster than legislation have. And the current situation is that the ability of the industry to invade every possible avenue into someone's private life through the phone, through emails, through advertising, it is dangerous for those who have a problem with gambling. It is encouraging those who are vulnerable and susceptible to have a problem with gambling. Yeah. And it is destroying society in the sense that people are spending more than they can afford. Their lives are being put at risk.
Yeah. And I just want to ask you, actually, because when we think of gambling, traditionally it was sort of going to a betting shop and placing a bet on the horses or things like that. I remember when I was younger, you had these coin machine things that you put a penny in and you wait for all the other ones to drop. Relatively harmless thing. But what I found recently is that games, video games and phone games for children, they're encouraging them to buy, blocks or coins to use for the game, and then when they lose them, they encourage them to buy more. Are we actually seeing a massive gambling problem under the radar that we don't necessarily identify as gambling?
Yeah, I mean, what I really need to say is that my biggest issue is with online gambling. If someone can go into a bookies, into a casino, can place a bet and is able to walk away having not lost their livelihood and it's controlled, I haven't got a problem with that. I myself went to a race course a couple of weeks ago and I placed a bet. No problem at all with that. What I worry about is the online, which is a 24-hour, 7 days a week scenario. This is where children get caught up. What you're talking about, Mercy, is things like loot boxes and skin betting, where kids are participating in what is speculative spend, and it's normalising gambling as an activity. It says this is a fine thing to do. There are over 60,000 problem gamblers in this country, aged between 11 and 16. That is what we're dealing with at the moment. We've created the next generation of problem gamblers. We have to change the regulations and the legislation.
All right, I'll lob it back over to you, Christopher, because there's one bit that I'd like your view on. I suppose one argument for regulating the gambling industry more, which I'm kind of naturally not inclined to want to do, but is that actually it isn't really regulating itself, in my opinion. They have been caught on numerous occasions, numerous different companies, targeting people that they were known to be problem gamblers. I suppose that is a case for more regulation, isn't it?
Well, it's difficult to define what that means, targeting problem gamblers. I mean, problem gamblers will, unfortunately... problem gamblers will basically lose all their money sooner or later. That's the reality of it. And there are problem gamblers in every country. The number of problem gamblers in the country is not remotely linked to the amount of regulation in the country. You've got some countries where gambling is basically banned, like China, where you have very high rates of problem gambling. We've got relatively relaxed regulation of gambling, and we've got actually quite low rates of problem gambling. And they haven't risen, the rates of problem gambling, since we started measuring it over 20 years ago. And rates of gambling amongst children have gone down. Rates of gambling, just in general, just participation in gambling, have gone down in the last 20 years, despite the fixed odds betting terminals that Carolyn was moaning about until quite recently, despite online gambling, despite the legalisation of gambling advertising. Now, it seems to me that...
Sorry, can I just stop you there? Because I'm not sure Carolyn does agree with the figures you've just quoted there, so I just want her to reply to those.
No, it just amazes me that when I was fighting for the fixed odds betting terminals, Mr Snowden was criticising me and saying I should draw my attention to online gambling because that's where the problem was. Now I'm doing that and I'm still not doing nothing right. I'm afraid Mr Snowden has swallowed the BGC playbook on this one and he's repeating exactly what he's been told to repeat. I know what I'm doing is the right thing. I'm totally convinced that we need to prevent any further harm. And I'm not on my own on this. There's far more people are fed up of advertising, are fed up of the way the gambling companies behave, and are willing, ready, and able to actually protect those. They're not gambling out of want, they're gambling out of an addiction. It's a mental and a public health problem. And the sooner people acknowledge that, the better this place will be.
All right, Christopher, go on. Give a reply to that.
Well, what I actually said is if you ban fixed odds betting terminals and people will play the same games online. And that wasn't in itself a problem for the gambler. It's more a problem for the industry. So we've had thousands of bookmakers close and thousands of people lose their jobs as a result. Now, maybe some of those jobs have gone online to UK companies, but I suspect a lot of them won't have done. But that was the issue there. The question is, have we got fewer problem gamblers as a result of banning fixed odds betting terminals? Are people spending less money on these kind of games? Not as far as I can tell. We were told that 2 people are killing themselves every day as a result of problem gambling. A statistic I had no evidence when I looked into it, by the way. How many are killing themselves now? The fixed odds betting terminals were the crack cocaine of gambling. So presumably since they were banned 2 or 3 years ago, we've seen a huge improvement in this problem. But I'm not hearing anything about that. Apparently things have got worse. Now we've got to control online. And if we control online, I bet you that Carolyn is back in a few years' time saying we need to control, I don't know, bingo or the lottery or scratch cards or something.
OK, all right, well, I mean, there's a lot of...
Free market take, Chris.
OK, I didn't quite catch that, but I think we have actually got time. We actually have to go. I'm very sorry, guys. I would actually really love to have it out all day with you two. I thought it was a really, really good debate. Thank you both very, very much. You've got Labour MP for Swansea East, Carolyn Harris there. Been campaigning for more regulation on the gambling industry, and of course Christopher Snowden from the IEA, who's written a paper warning of the risks of over-regulation. That was a good debate. That
Good debate. Now a more serious story here. Fears are growing for a 15-year-old girl who went missing 2 weeks ago from her home in Bristol. Police say it's now likely Maddie Thomas, which is her name, has been abducted and may be anywhere in the country. GB News' southwest of England reporter Jeff Moody is live for us in Southmead in Bristol, which is close to where Maddie was last seen. Morning, Jeff. What more can you tell us about this quite tragic case? A 15-year-old girl going missing. Nobody knows where she is.
Well, absolutely. She went out to the shops on the 26th of April, left her home where she lives with her foster parents and didn't come back. The foster carers are saying that she is very, very vulnerable. She is very susceptible to all sorts of people coming her way. Avon and Somerset Police have launched a massive inquiry to try and work out what's happened to her. They've been going door to door and asking people. They're also checking CCTV cameras to see if that can give us any idea. But over the last day or so, they've been looking at her online presence. And she has a huge online presence. She's online like a lot of teenagers. She's online a lot. And also, like a lot of teenagers, she has different profiles. Each profile has some of them have different names. In some of them, she looks very different. Her appearance changes. And she has in the past been meeting people online, like a lot of teenagers do. She chats to somebody online. She then agrees to meet them down the shops and to chat to them in person. And police are now believing that is what she did on the 26th of April. She spoke to somebody online. They then met at the shops and she hasn't been seen since. So it's particularly worrying for the parents. They're urging her to contact them as as soon as possible, just to let them know that she's safe and well. But the police are much more concerned. They think that she could well have been abducted, and she may not be in Bristol at all. She could be anywhere over the entire country. So they're asking everybody to keep a lookout for her. She may not look exactly like she does in the photographs because she does change her appearance a lot. But if anybody sees her or has met her online or met her virtually in recent days and weeks, they should call 999. It's a problem that many parents of teenagers face when they're not quite sure who their children are talking to online. And of course, the danger of chatting to somebody on social media and then meeting up with them is even more apparent today.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for bringing us that. And for our TV viewers or online, you can see those images of that girl there. As Jeff says, she might have changed in appearance as well. And if you are listening to us on radio, I'd encourage you to just look at some pictures of her online. And the police have obviously said do contact them if you see her.
Yeah, indeed. Jeff, thank you very much for that report. We'll no doubt be going back to you very soon as well. Jeff Moody there. OK, right. Well, look, we're going to move on from that now, which is obviously a very downbeat story, a very important one, very downbeat, and talk something that's hopefully a little bit more uplifting. Now, you can go to Just Giving. If I'm rattling the can here, people, OK? You can go to justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's, right? And why want you to donate? Why? Well, we're trying to save some lives here at GB News. I'm raising money using this website, Just Giving, as you've seen there. I'm trying to raise, basically, about 50k. We're up to nearly 8 grand. We're on 7,751 so far. And I want to give it a massive plug. Friend of the channel, Nathan Dunn, is walking from John O'Groats to Land's End barefoot. Now, I'm hoping to get the exact specific date of this sorted, but fingers crossed, maybe one day next week or the week after, I will be walking a bit barefoot with him, OK? And on top of that, I decided I wanted to do my own thing as well, all for the same charity. That charity is Mind. It's a mental health charity, and it's something that's very close to both my heart, Nathan's heart, I think many people's hearts. Of course it is. We've got a mental health crisis at the moment, don't we? And basically, what I'm going to do is lose 1.5 stone. I've only got a month left. I've lost 12 pounds as of yesterday, OK? So I've got 3 weeks left, actually. 3 weeks left to lose, well, basically half a stone.
So you've got £9 to go?
About that, right? And I want you guys, if you can, to help donate. Let's get up to as big a target as we possibly can. Justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. I know times are hard, cost of living crisis, etc. We're all feeling the pinch. But this is a chance that we might have to save some lives. I'm going to be losing that weight, and then at the end of it, in case you're wondering why on earth in that picture there are 2 semi-naked men next to me, well, I'll tell you. I'm going to be performing live with the Dream Boys, male strippers, live on stage to show off the fact that my body looks less like a blancmange than it used to. But let's try and save some lives, people, OK? And also, look, if Nathan can walk from John O'Groats to Land's End barefoot, then can you give us some money, please? Just give
absolutely. And he told us that that's an average of 26 miles a day he'll have to be walking, so a marathon's worth of a walk every single day. And we have been speaking to him live over the last week or two. But yeah, donate if you can. The email is, the website is justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. As we say, already £7,700. Yes. So it would be great to get to that.
Let's try and make it to 8 grand by the end of the show.
Yeah.
If we can. So 7,700 at the minute, so we need 300 quid, OK? 300 quid to get to that 8 grand. Justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. Come on, people, let's save some lives. Right, moving on. Let's
go to some of your views. We haven't done so, I don't think, in the show already. Lots of views coming in about Rwanda. Yeah. Alan says, good morning, Patrick and Mercy. Surely anyone who has entered this country illegally should be sent to Rwanda, whether they arrive this year or any other year. But which is something we alluded to earlier. But if I'm not wrong, this could be completely wrong, but I don't think you can apply a new law to somebody retrospectively, which might have something to do with it. So say if you commit a crime, if you do something last year and then it's made a crime this year, you can't then go back and charge somebody for that crime. So it maybe has something to do with that. Who knows? We'll try and get an answer for you.
Exactly. And Yvonne's been in touch, a regular emailer, I believe, actually, Yvonne, so thank you very, very much, who says, don't tell the people that are going to get deported, just take them straight to the airport and straight to Rwanda. Those in Calais will soon get the phone calls. It's interesting, it's touching on what we were talking about earlier, Yvonne, isn't it? Which is that I'm concerned that if you start telling people, hey, look, in several months' time, in a year's time, you're going to get deported, well, they'll get angry, they could well abscond, who knows what could happen. Anyway, keep all your thoughts coming in to us on email, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll be back with more of today's top stories and plenty of your views after this very short break.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. Dry, bright and a bit breezy sums up the weather for most today. It won't be completely dry. There will be some showers across western Scotland and Northern Ireland caused by this little weather feature which is slowly drifting in. For most places, though, it is going to be a fairly benign kind of weather day. Yes, there's a fair bit of cloud around, but some places I'm seeing some decent spells of sunshine, parts of eastern England in particular, and at times across parts of northern England, some sunshine on the south coast as well. But generally a lot of cloud, but a lot of dry weather for England, Wales and eastern Scotland. But northwest Scotland's staying fairly soggy, and there'll be a few showers drifting into the west of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. A cooler feel here as well with a brisk breeze. Elsewhere, temperatures around average, high teens, maybe up to 20 in the sunshine across Essex and Kent. As we go through this evening, we'll see a bit more of that showery rain drifting south through southern Scotland into northern England, North Wales, maybe even a shower or two over Lincolnshire and the Midlands for a time. But that all scoots away by dawn, and again, most of us will start Friday dry. Quite a mild night, double digits in many towns and cities. On to Friday, and quite a lot of clouds. Certainly initially, the sunshine fairly hazy over England and Wales, but generally a fine day here. Dry and bright too for Northern Ireland with some sunshine. Again, it'll be northwestern parts of Scotland that see the rain, spreading more widely across the Northern Isles through the day. Quite soggy across the Highlands, but through the central belt, southern Scotland, most places dry. Plenty of afternoon sunshine across England and Wales, and a warmer day as well. Temperatures could get up to 23 across eastern parts of England. There will be a bit more of a breeze blowing during Friday, but still very pleasant conditions through Friday evening. Still a few scattered showers across the northwest, but for most places, high pressure is moving in during Friday, and that will bring most of us a fine day on Saturday as well, with some warm sunshine. There is the likelihood, though, of some thunderstorms coming up from the south on Saturday night and Sunday.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie, and Mercy Muroki on your TV, radio and online. We're here with you all the way through until midday with an action-packed show. Lots to get stuck into today, so yes, let's do it.
Yes, and make sure you get in touch with your views, as usual, on GB Views at GB News. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the programme, but first, let's give you the latest headlines.
Good morning, it's coming up to 1 minute past 11. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Met Police says more than 50 additional fines have been issued over COVID breaches in Downing Street and other government buildings. It now brings the total number of fines to more than 100 after Boris Johnson and his wife Carrie were hit with fixed penalty notices last month. It's not yet known who the new fines have been issued to, but it's understood the Prime Minister hasn't received an additional fine. The police investigation continues. Finland's leaders say the nation must apply for NATO membership without delay after decades of neutrality. Sweden's also likely to follow suit. It's after the two Nordic countries signed security pacts with the UK, which could see British troops deployed in the event of an attack by Russia. Security experts fear the move could anger Moscow, which sees NATO expansion as a direct threat to its own security. The Finnish Foreign Minister, Pekka Haavisto, says membership would strengthen security.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine has altered the European and Finnish security environment. However, Finland is not facing an immediate military threat. Should Finland decide to apply, the accession of Finland would strengthen the security and stability of the Baltic Sea region and Northern Europe. Finland is a regional security provider and would further strengthen NATO as a future ally.
To Ukraine, the United Nations Human Rights Chief has said that over 1,000 civilian bodies have been recovered in the Kyiv region alone, and that the civilian death toll in Mariupol is in the thousands. That as there's been another massive explosion at the Azovstal steelworks in the besieged port city, as officials say Russia's pressing on with the assault on the plant. It's believed at least 100 civilians and wounded fighters are still sheltering there. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says Ukraine's maintaining their counterattack to the north of Kharkiv, recapturing several towns and villages towards the Russian border. The Attorney General has received legal advice that it would be lawful for the UK to override part of the post-Brexit trade agreements in Northern Ireland. That as the Foreign Secretary holds crunch talks with the European Commission on Northern Ireland. Ministers will decide whether to alter the protocol deal. Liz Truss is expected to tell them the dispute can't drag on. The DUP have said they need the agreement to be changed before they'll rejoin the power-sharing agreement in Stormont. New figures this morning show the UK economy grew by 0.8% between January and March, the slowest pace for a year. The Office for National Statistics says it's down from 1.3% in the previous 3 months. It comes amid fears the cost of living crisis may plunge the UK into recession. Serial killer Levi Bellfield is engaged and has requested a prison wedding, the Ministry of Justice has confirmed. Bellfield serving 2 whole-life orders for murdering Marsha McDonnell, Amelie Delagrange and Millie Dowler. Prisons Minister Victoria Atkins says she's ordered an immediate review into the request, branding the proposed wedding as absolutely appalling. Police are treating a teenage girl's disappearance in Bristol as child abduction. 15-year-old Madison Thomas, known as Maddie, hasn't been seen since she left her foster parents' home in the Southmead area 15 days ago. Officers believe she's likely to be with a man. They're appealing to anyone with any information to come forward. A Labour MP has told GB News she suffered sexual harassment whilst at Cambridge University. Stella Creasy said she was threatened with gang rape, but college authorities admonished her complaints instead of punishing the abusers. The university apologised for what it called a horrific ordeal, saying steps have since been taken to improve reporting incidents of abuse.
I was in a room with them all and they threatened to gang rape me. It took public humiliation and posters and finally other people coming forward and me collating the evidence of all the notes, the spitting in my room, the rubbish that was thrown at me, the sexual abuse and harassment if I tried to walk into the bar that came from this group of young men.
And you can listen to the exclusive interview with Gloria De Piero at 12:40. Sadiq Khan has announced the first London Drugs Commission to consider decriminalising cannabis and other drugs in the UK. As part of the Mayor of London's 4-day tour of the US, he visited a cannabis farm in LA to see what lessons the UK could learn about the challenges of drugs. He praised what he called high standards of legalised cannabis farms in the country. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens now, though. It's back to Patrick and Mercy with To The Point.
Good morning. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christie's on your TV, radio and online. It's 11:06 and we've got a great show lined up for you for our final hour. So here's what's on the menu.
Following on from the Queen's speech, we'll be joined by two leaders from the construction industry to get their thoughts on the government's latest levelling up plans. What will it look like for their project, and do they have faith that it will actually happen?
Yes, and as Northern Ireland faces constitutional uncertainty without an operating executive, we look into the ongoing disputes over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Will Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and the EU resolve their differences and provide a solution? Well, we'll get stuck into that shortly.
Finally, Tory MP Lee Anderson had a Marie Antoinette moment yesterday, saying that those relying on food banks only use them because they, quote, cannot cook properly or budget, but...
Which I contend is not what he said.
Yeah, which is not really exactly what he said. We'll get stuck into all of this. Anyway, a food pantry director will be joining us live shortly.
Yes, that's all coming up and much more across the programme. And get in touch with your views as usual. gbviews at gbnews.uk is the email.
Indeed, but first, Mercy, very appropriately, gives her views on Lee Anderson and the spiralling cost of living.
There's many things you can find in abundance on the internet, and one of those is a litany of blogs on cooking meals on the cheap. Every mum, especially those who, like me, have at times found themselves cash-strapped with small mouths to feed, will have at one point or another Googled low-cost meals. In fact, the term pulls up around 2 billion results in Google search engine. There you can find a smorgasbord of tips for how those on a low income can adjust their eating habits to fit their budget, from dedicated websites to supermarket websites to magazines. One of the big 6 energy companies even provides free advice on how to cook meals that keep your energy bills down. So, we can all agree that giving advice to low-income families on cutting their spending by cooking cheaper budget meals is uncontroversial. Yes? Well, apparently not. At least according to the established liberal media, who all got a collective aneurysm yesterday when Conservative MP Lee Anderson dared to suggest that some people could avoid having to turn to food banks if they were given skills on budgeting and low-cost meals. Let's listen to his comments in the Commons yesterday.
My invitation is to everybody on that side of the House. Come to Ashfield and work with me for a day in my food bank and see that the brilliant scheme we've got in place, where when people come now for a food parcel, they have to register for a budgeting course and a cooking course. And what we do at the food bank, we show them how to cook cheap and nutritious meals on a budget. We can make a meal for about 30 pence a day.
So that was MP Lee Anderson. As you can see, what he said there was with his work at his food bank in his constituency. They also teach people how to budget and how to cook low-cost meals. That was it. Of course, if we teach families who don't have budgeting skills and are not used to cooking low-cost meals from scratch how to do so, some, though not all, would avoid having to turn to food donations. Of course, that's common sense. And yet, Tory MP blames food poverty on lack of cooking skills, The Guardian lamented. Tory MP moans poor people can't cook properly and boasts meals only cost 30p. That was the Mirror. No, he did not, you headline-grabbing amoebas. All he said was that massive needs for food banks would be mitigated if families were given skills in budgeting and given better exposure to low-cost food options. Perhaps, he said so a tad clumsily, but tomato, tomato. Besides, books on this very issue that Lee Anderson was raising are aplenty. Jack Monroe, for example, a food poverty campaigner, has a book titled Cooking on Bootstraps, which is a fancy way of saying if you're dead poor and need to feed your family on the cheap, read this book. She also, by the way, has an accompanying website entirely dedicated to giving low-income families tips on cheaper eating, and is highly recommended by none other than Nigella Lawson. ITV celebrity chef Phil Vickery has a book, Save Money, Good Diet, which, although grammatically questionable, is a guide for families who need to cook more budget meals. A similar book by celebrity chef Greg Wallace and Chris Bevan is called Eat Well for Less, Family Feast on a Budget. One author as well literally makes a living from being renowned as the £1 chef, insisting that you can cook meals for £1 a person. Jamie Oliver, infamous enemy of the beloved turkey Twizzler and all-round headache of a man, has the book called Save with Jamie, Shop Smart, Cook Clever, Waste Less. So let me get this right. When middle-class celebs in cushy homes give poor families advice on how they can eat on the cheap, it's seen as lifestyle advice, worthy of millions of pounds of book pages and magazine splashes. But when a Tory MP, who's a former coal miner and serves a deprived constituency, expresses the exact same sentiment, he is subjected to a barrage of disgust. You've just got to love the double standards, don't you? Please, for goodness sakes, let's cut the outrage every time a Tory MP says something that in reality is just banal and commonsensical. Outraged media outlets need to get a grip, quite frankly, and let's cut the confected outrage.
It's absolute madness, this. He stood up and basically said, come to my food bank. So he's acknowledging there is one in his constituency, of course there is. And then he's basically said, here's how we help people to use that food bank to the best possible effect. Cook for about 30p a day. And he's not wrong. People do need a bit of an education on how to cook properly or how to cook well for less.
I guarantee you, if Nigella Lawson or Jamie Oliver came out with a book called How to Cook on 30p a day...
The 30p food bank.
Yeah. Literally, the 30p food book, that would be bestsellers. That he or she would be praised by the left-wing media on how they're really helping families struggling with the cost of living.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what Lee Anderson was saying. So what's the difference there? Well, the difference is he's a Conservative MP and many media outlets happen to not like that very much.
But the irony is there that I reckon some of those people who've been writing those articles are actually probably quite well-to-do lefty types around the North London area, whereas Lee Anderson is like a working-class lad.
Yeah, who's helping
people, and they're saying that he doesn't care about people who are a bit hard up or whatever. Yeah. It's all just absolute madness, isn't it? And, as well, remember this, the next time they start accusing people of fake news, this, that and the other. Well, actually, what was that? Complete and utter spin. And, indeed, tosh.
Well, there you go. Well, here to give us her reaction is the director of the food pantry, his provision, Amanda Hudson. First of all, let's address what Lee Anderson said yesterday. Look, I don't know if you just heard my views there, but my view is that, look, I grew up in a poor family. We would have loved to know how to make food cheaper. I think that's just common sense advice. It's coming from a good place. What do you make of his comments?
I think when you break it down, people have actually, the media, like you said, have put both things together and then span how he said it incorrectly. But there is a need for people to be educated in the ways to cook better and smarter. And that doesn't matter if you're poor or rich. You know, if you can learn to cook better and more efficiently, that benefits everybody. And like you said, there's celebrities that have made numerous amounts of money in regards to telling us, you know, how to use the vegetables and the meat to cook vast amounts of food cheaply. But I think because he got a little bit flummoxed with his words, the media just then ran with it like a bullet and, you know, they've hung him out to dry.
No, absolutely. No, you're in Blackpool. I know Blackpool pretty well, actually. I used to go to Blackpool at least a couple of times a year. And, yes, OK, I think it's fair to say there are parts of Blackpool that are maybe a bit deprived and I no doubt have food banks. What's the reality like there, in your opinion? What do you see on the ground?
I don't think it's just in Blackpool where we have deprived areas now. I know that in the statistics that are produced, we're quite high at the top of things, but unfortunately, the energy crisis is in every town and every city. And if you look at the cities and towns, every area has deprived areas. What I am seeing is it's not just low families that are coming to us. It's elderly. It's those families where both parents work full time, and they have to make their money stretch further. So it's not just one group of people. We all need educating. We need educating all the time. You know, you don't just finish university or school or college and that's it, you're done for life. You continually re-educate yourself to do things better and to learn more, because you can never stop learning. You know, the more you learn, the more knowledge you have, so the better you become. So, you know, that's a part of education. And it may be that what you learned at school, you need to relearn. You know, everybody needs somebody to help them. And if it's an MP that says something or a celebrity chef, we all need people.
We do, and I'm hoping that you might be able to educate me a little bit now, Amanda, if that's OK, because what's the difference then, really, between a food bank and a food pantry?
We use the word food pantry because we offer a scheme where for £5 you purchase the tinned stock that we have, and you can choose them and they have a value, and then we backfill it with £15 to £20 worth of food that is given to us from local organisations, different sorts of fruits and vegetables, so that then the families and old people and just single people can cook and survive. You know, but it empowers people. A bank is a brilliant thing, but with a bank, sometimes you have to be turned away. With our pantry, if we've got it, we will give it away. And it just empowers people, so they're not just feel that they're taking, they're actually giving back and supporting us to support those in need that don't have anything.
Well, Amanda Hudson, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for all the work you do in your community. It's really great. And join us again another time.
It's not my passion.
Oh, great. That's great to hear. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, bless her.
Oh.
We need more people like that, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of you have been getting in touch on this topic. I have to say, I'm not just saying this, but many of you actually agree, and you wouldn't have thought many people would agree if you were reading some of the headlines around this issue yesterday about what Lee Anderson said. John says you're not allowed to suggest poor people should learn to cook to save money. There's going to be uproar. Steve says, so an MP can't give helpful advice, but it's OK for a bunch of affluent TV chefs to make a mint out of doing the same thing. Margaret says, I agree with the MP. Cooking fresh, nutritious food is cheaper than buying takeaways, and it's easy peasy.
Some people are making an interesting point, though, which is fair enough, which is given the current cost of living crisis and the energy bills, you know, actually the cost of cooking has gone up, but that wasn't really what you were saying.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I did one of the big six, which I mentioned earlier. One of the big six did say, here's how you can cook low-cost food, and which don't use much energy as well. So, of course, we should be giving people those tips. I think lots of people who are struggling would be very open to hearing how you can save energy whilst cooking, how you can cook for less. So what's the big issue here? I'm very confused about all
Well,
this.
John's been in touch. He says, give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day. Obviously, teach him how to fish and he'll feed himself for a lifetime. And that's kind of what's going on here. Isn't this a really interesting difference, actually, between, you know, you would argue maybe some elements of the Labour Party who are supposed to be for the working man and woman, the ones maybe at the lower end of society, as it were, who basically infantilise and patronise a lot of the people right at the bottom rung. Oh, you can't possibly teach them how to cook. You can't possibly teach them how to cook. No, come off it. That's a shame. Whereas, actually, what Lee Anderson is trying to do is help elevate
There's
people.
also a massive hypocrisy as well, in the sense that Labour have bashed continuously the Conservative Party because of the rise of food bank usage. In my view, what Lee Anderson was doing was to teach people how they can actually avoid needing to use a food bank. And they've criticised that as well. So do you want people to learn how to not use a food bank or not, to help themselves if they can? Some people always will, but...
Yeah, people are making the point about his salary and his expenses as well. I think it's important, just in the interest of fairness, really, to raise that. You know, apparently there are allegations of he was claiming something like 200 grand on expenses, this, that,
so are
and the
many
other.
MPs, so are many MPs.
But I mean, that is what a lot of MPs do, and it's just because, you know, you don't have to be poor and go into a food bank to give advice on how to use a food bank, I suppose. It would be my take on it. But anyway, GBViews, GBNews Talk UK.
Yes, well, after the break, two directors from the construction industry give their thoughts on the government's levelling up plans. Maybe they can tell us what it even means. I'm still confused to this day. And whether the North has actually been left behind. That's all after this weather.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. Dry, bright and a bit breezy sums up the weather for most today. It will be completely dry. There will be some showers across western Scotland and Northern Ireland caused by this little weather feature which is slowly drifting in. For most places, though, it is going to be a fairly benign kind of weather day. Yes, there's a fair bit of cloud around, but some places seeing some decent spells of sunshine, parts of eastern England in particular, and at times across parts of northern England, some sunshine on the south coast as well. But generally a lot of cloud, but a lot of dry weather for England, Wales and eastern Scotland. But northwest Scotland's staying fairly soggy, and there'll be a few showers drifting into the west of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. A cooler feel here as well, with a brisk breeze. Elsewhere, temperatures around average, high teens, maybe up to 20 in the sunshine across Essex and Kent. As we go through this evening, we'll see a bit more of that showery rain drifting south through southern Scotland into northern England, North Wales, maybe even a shower or two over Lincolnshire and the Midlands for a time. But that all scoots away by dawn, and again, most of us will start Friday dry. Quite a mild night, double digits in many towns and cities. On to Friday, and quite a lot of clouds. Certainly initially, the sunshine fairly hazy over England and Wales, but generally a fine day here. Dry and bright too for Northern Ireland with some sunshine. Again, it'll be northwestern parts of Scotland that see the rain, spreading more widely across the Northern Isles through the day. Quite soggy across the Highlands, but through the central belt, southern Scotland, most places dry. Plenty of afternoon sunshine across England and Wales, and a warmer day as well. Temperatures could get up to 23 across eastern parts of England. There will be a bit more of a breeze blowing during Friday, but still very pleasant conditions through Friday evening. Still a few scattered showers across the northwest, but for most places, high pressure is moving in during Friday, and that will bring most of us a fine day on Saturday as well, with some warm sunshine. There is the likelihood, though, of some thunderstorms coming up from the south on Saturday night and Sunday.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christys, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It is 10:25. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys and Mercy Muroki on GB News, live on your telly, online and radio this morning.
Yes, now levelling up. Tuesday's Queen's speech outlined an ambitious government agenda, including planning system reforms, more green and secure energy and better regulation of social housing.
Yes, but some of the planning reforms have received a less than favourable response, with one top lawyer calling them so lacking in detail they're essentially meaningless.
Well, yesterday, the 338-page Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill was introduced to Parliament, but missing from the bill was a previous pledge from the Levelling Up strategy, Secretary Michael Gove, to build 300,000 new homes per year.
Interesting that. Well, joining us now are construction industry bosses Chris Wayne, Director of Hive Projects, and Sean Keys, as well, Managing Director at Sutcliffe. Both of you, thank you very, very much. Great to have you both on the show. Chris, I'll start with you, if that's all right. What do you make of this plan, first and foremost, anyway? Do you think it will actually level anything up?
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, the 300,000 homes a year plan has just not been delivered. You know, it's been talked about for a while. We're miles behind those targets. So I think positive announcements around infrastructure and transport, so creating more housing development opportunity, and obviously the changes in planning reform, hopefully will enable projects to be delivered quicker and faster.
What do you think, when we're talking about levelling up and talking about house building, of course that is a great thing. We know we need more houses, don't we? But for people who are renting now, living in houses at the moment and are struggling, this might not do much for them if they don't intend to move in the near future necessarily. Is there anything in this that is focusing on people at this moment rather than house owners of the future or renters of the future?
Not really, and I think you summed it up before, actually. There's a lack of detail around that, and obviously some of these things are going to take a while to come to fruition. So, yeah, I'd certainly agree with that comment. I think some of the narrative around the planning process and involving more communities, more local communities in that process is really positive. But obviously, as I said before, some of these things will take a while to come to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, I'll throw it over to you now. You've been waiting very patiently. Do you think that there's any chance of levelling up at all? I mean, as it stands, how on earth are we going to ever build the amount of homes that we need, for example?
I think levelling up is a long-term strategy. So as long as we're continuing to improve and the level between the north and the south in terms of wealth, homes, opportunities, and also in terms of people's lifestyles, as long as that continues, then I will be happier. As I said, what's been spoken about, it isn't a shift strong enough, in my opinion, to truly level up the country in one fell swoop. But it's an improvement, and we do need these homes. We need these extra 300,000 homes. It's a basic necessity. We need to improve the planning process to enable these homes to be built swiftly. This is a national problem around the planning. It's not a regional problem. It's a national problem. So we're on the path, and we're not there yet.
Absolutely. No, I can see that you're calling in from Liverpool, I believe, and that's the kind of prime levelling up territory, right? That's kind of the exact kind of place where we need to be getting on with it, right? What would it mean for your area in terms of what you're there, you're a boot on the ground, right? What does it mean? What would levelling up mean for you? Because we don't know what it means at the minute, do we?
No, for me, levelling up means about opportunity for people, and I think currently, it's £6 to every one is spent in London as it is in the regions, and so we need to commit spending in the regions. So one particular problem that we have in the northwest region is travelling from the northwest to the northeast. So that transport link hasn't been agreed. Transport and movement and people creates wealth, creates jobs. So we want all of these regions to be working as well as the London region. I'm very proud of our London region. It's a fabulous capital. But we want all the regions, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Newcastle, we want them to operate with the same levels of efficiencies and the same opportunity that comes out of our fabulous capital.
Indeed, and I'll just throw the same question over to you, actually, Chris. In Manchester, as I understand it, nearer my neck of the woods than Liverpool, just. But what would levelling up mean for you? What does levelling up mean for Manchester, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's more what Sean said, really, balanced opportunity across the piece. You know, as someone who actually lives in Liverpool and spent most of his life working in Manchester, I think there's real disparity between the regions and opportunity is limited. I also take exception with the focus around high-paid, high-skilled jobs. You know, that has a place, but actually it's about more balanced opportunity, you know, for the entire workforce and entire society, you know, particularly when you've got a cost of living crisis at the minute. And particularly in construction, we talk a lot about the benefit manufacturing can have on construction delivery. So actually, we should be looking at these things much more holistically.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, both of you, thank you very, very much. Really insightful stuff, that, actually. We don't get enough of this, in my opinion, anyway, on the telly, which is two people who are actually on the ground at the coalface of the kind of levelling up agenda, actually saying what it should be, as opposed to just sitting back and kind of waiting for a politician to tell us, indeed. So thank you very, very much. So we've got Chris Wayne there, Director of Hive Projects, and Sean Keyes as well, Managing Director at Sutcliffe. Great stuff, lads. We'll have to see you very, very soon. So, right, OK, now, just about, I don't know, about half an hour ago, I think it was, we did a cheeky little plug for a charity that we're backing here at GB News. Now, our barefoot adventurer friend, Nathan Dunn, is currently somewhere in remote Scotland as he continues his charity walk in aid of mental health charity Mind. So now, thanks to, there he is, you can see him on the telly, and if you're listening on radio, it's a man with barefoot in the countryside. So, thanks to many of our very generous GB News viewers. He personally has raised nearly £3,800. He's aiming for a target of £50,000. Now, that's a lot of money, OK? So what we thought was we'd jump on board with this. We'd try and give him that extra little push, help him along the way. It's going to take you about 3 months. He's about a week or so into it now. And we've got our own Just Giving page here, justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. Now, about half an hour ago, we're on about £7,700.
Yes.
I said to you guys, please, 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 please can we get up above £8,000?
You've delivered.
8,226 already. 100 quid from Valerie, thank you. Hillary's been on with 20 big ones.
Yes.
Lauren's given 10. I could do this all day. Fantastic stuff. Brian, you're a legend. Thank you very much. Conrad,
and let's not forget that it's for a good cause.
It is.
But it's also for what some might call a bad cause, which is you're going to strip at the end of it.
OK, all right, thank you very much. Don't put
Jackie says keep slimming, by the way.
Yeah, well, all right, OK, fine, I will. No, right, so look, yes, this is the thing. So I am to help Nathan along the way. Yes, I'll be walking with him a bit of the way, so we'll go and do a barefoot walk at some point when he crosses that border back into England. And I'm also losing a bit of weight, trying to. I've lost about 12 pounds so far. I need to drop 1.5 stone. I've got 3 weeks to lose about 9 pounds now, I suppose. And then, at the end of it, I'm going to be performing live on stage with the Dream Boys. That's right, male strippers. So, look, I am trying to really do my bit, and I hope that if you possibly can, I know things are tight, I keep saying this, I really do mean it. I know we're not all flush with cash at the minute, but if you can just give a few quid, right? Please do. That's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. We're currently on 8,226. What time is it now? Let's have a look. We've got half an hour
33.
left. Half an hour left.
Jess says she's looking forward to the end performance.
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
one of us. Yes, if we could... Go on, why not try to get to 8,500? We've got half an hour. Half an hour.
Do it, let's
Thank you very much. One cheeky little plug. justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. Come on, people.
Yes, well, coming up, we're going to be talking about much, much more as well of the day's agenda, and get in touch with your views, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Yes, we've got lots on about the protocol as well, so stay tuned for that. But first, a break.
It's 11:34. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Met Police says more than 50 additional fines have been issued over COVID breaches in Downing Street and other government buildings. It brings the total number to more than 100. Boris Johnson and his wife Carrie were hit with fixed penalty notices last month. It's not yet known who the new fines have been issued to, but it's understood it doesn't include the Prime Minister. Boris Johnson chairs a cabinet meeting today away from Downing Street. He's expected to urge ministers to bring the benefits of the Queen's speech to life as they meet for an away day in Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire. Downing Street say they'll also discuss how the new legislation will boost the economy and level up opportunities across the country. Finland's leaders say the nation must apply for NATO membership without delay after decades of neutrality. Sweden's also likely to follow suit. It's after the two countries, Nordic countries, signed security pacts with the UK, which could see British troops deployed in the event of an attack by Russia. Security experts fear this could anger Moscow, which sees NATO expansion as a direct threat to its own security. To Ukraine, the United Nations Human Rights Chief has said over 1,000 civilian bodies have been recovered in the Kiev region alone, and that the civilian death toll in Mariupol is in the thousands. Earlier, there was another large explosion at the Azovstal steelworks in the besieged port city. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence says Ukraine's maintaining their counterattack to the north of Kharkiv. The UK economy grew by 0.8% between January and March, the slowest pace for a year. The Office for National Statistics says it's down from 1.3% in the previous 3 months. It comes amid fears the cost of living crisis may plunge the UK into recession. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.22 to the dollar, the pound is 1.17 to the euro, and the price of gold currently stands at £1,515.38 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for physical investment.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubilee, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubilee, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 11:38 and this is To The Point with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christie's on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio.
We certainly are. Now, the Northern Ireland Protocol is back in the news this week as Prime Minister Boris Johnson concedes that it needs, quote, sorting out in order to command cross-community support. Well, Jim Shannon, Democratic Unionist Party MP for Strangford, joins us. Now, Jim, thank you very much. Great to have you back on the show. Thank you. So, right, what's the latest with this Northern Ireland Protocol for you then? What's missing? What does it need? What's going on?
I think the news this morning is quite dramatic in that we now have extra emphasis. There's been legal advice has been sought by the Suella Braverman, the Attorney General. It's lawful to override parts of the post-Brexit treaty for Northern Ireland. So when we look at that legal advice, I think that adds to the demands that we have made to the Conservative government, to the Prime Minister, to the Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs over the last period of time. And we do think that we're looking very much to the dismissal of the Northern Ireland Protocol if the legal advice is right, and if the commitment by the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs are prepared to pursue it to their limit. Thank you.
Yeah, no, just talk to us a little bit more about that then, because you said if the legal advice is right, this is going to kick off, surely. I mean, can you just rip it up?
Well, I mean, we've probably been asking for a period of time to rip it up, for we always thought it was from the very beginning, it was a document which disadvantaged us, particularly in Northern Ireland. The movement of goods right east and west to east and north-south were clearly disadvantaged. I've had genuinely, Patrick, 99% of my companies and my constituency have spoken to me about the problems they have. Just yesterday, I made a speech in the House of Commons, which one of my companies who distributes across the whole of Northern Ireland, he's had many of his contacts and businesses he has who come from a nationalist persuasion, who actually want the DUP to request the dismissal of the Northern Ireland Protocol as well, because it's disadvantaging them and their businesses. So if I look across Northern Ireland, and we look at the disadvantage to the companies from all traditions, then I think there's a growing demand for the Northern Ireland Protocol to be dismissed, and for the Prime Minister and for the Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs, now backed up with a legal opinion, to make this sooner rather than later.
And what do you make of the the EU's role in this and their appetite for further negotiation? Liz Truss has met with EU counterpart, EU negotiator Maros Sefcovic, has said there is no room to expand, that they're not going to budge at all on this. Are you anticipating them to change their minds on this?
Well, and if only life was always positive, Mercy, I suspect that the EU will have to be dragged screaming and shouting into the last place saloon to make sure that they can change. But now we have the legal opinion. Now we have the support of the Prime Minister directly, and also of the SDO Minister as well, Secretary of State. I think things have moved on. From the very beginning, the EU have been intransigent, have been obstructive, have been difficult. They have been, I mean, the negotiations that were taking place between the United Kingdom and the EU over the last few months have got to an absolute stalemate. They were in the stalemate probably in the first 2 weeks, but they've remained in that stalemate. So now something more has to happen. So I think something more is going to happen today. So will the EU move? Well, let's put it this way. If they don't move, then legal advice will be moved for them, and they will find themselves in a position where they should have accepted from the very beginning.
Yeah, good stuff. I like a bit of that. Thank you very much, Jim. Great to have you back on the show again, and you'll have to come back on very, very soon. This is a story that's going to rumble on, so you might as well be one of our lead spokespeople on it. So there we go. Jim Shannon, Democratic Unionist Party MP for Strangford. Good lad. Interesting that, though, I think, because he makes a really good point. If this isn't working, and it isn't really working for either side on it, the way the EU would currently go about it is to just carry on with it. And, that doesn't seem to make any sense.
Well, they've said they'll take a hard line on it and that they're not going to change their mind. I mean, it would, I suppose, if they had to renegotiate it, it is a loss for them, really, isn't it? So they don't want to do that. They want to stick to what they said they negotiated before, and then they're not going to change their minds on that. And, ultimately, the people of Northern Ireland do definitely need a change, don't they? Because we went into all of this without having really considered the issue of what happens with the border. And now we're facing the consequences of that.
Yeah, and I think, though, that the EU has arguably never been quite as weak as it is now. They didn't handle the coronavirus particularly well. The EU nations are not doing particularly well at the minute. They're certainly not standing up as well as we are for Ukraine. So I would have thought all things would indicate that we might be able to outmanoeuvre them as well when it comes to the Northern Ireland Protocol. But hey, what do I know? Now, moving on. As the nation gears up for the long bank holiday weekend next month to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, events to mark the historic reign of the monarch are already underway.
As 4 days of celebrations kick off today at the Royal Windsor Horse Show, home to the Queen and where she currently resides at the castle. Well, Rosie Wright is there for us this morning. The weather looks absolutely beautiful, Rosie. So tell us about what we can expect over the next few days.
Oh, Mercy, it is absolutely glorious. I'm in the grounds that are normally the private grounds of Windsor Castle, which you can just get the tiniest glimpse of over there, where the Queen is currently residing. It's the only time in the year when the public are allowed and the celebrations are underway. From very early this morning, there were some competitions taking place, and also later on, there are going to be some performances too. It's all about marking that Jubilee, really kicking off celebrations, and we may see the Queen make an appearance at some point over the next 4 days. That's certainly the plan. We know from what happened earlier this week when she wasn't, for the first time in nearly 60 years, at the state opening of Parliament. Could she come here? It's a much shorter journey. We know that doctors at the beginning of the week said she was struggling with some mobility issues, but she has a huge passion for horses and ponies. In fact, 41 of her own are going to be competing in some form this week. Let's move on from the competitions, though, and instead talk about some of the performances. I'm joined here by some of the household cavalry. Thank you very much for speaking to me. This is Harry and Caitlin as well. You're going to be performing, and you're in something called Musical Ride. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, that's the House Carry Mountain Regiment's ceremonial sort of output that we'd go to shows. We go all over the place. We'd go to places like Horse of the Year show, Olympia, and obviously Royal Windsor Horse Show. So we basically perform music, and we do a sort of a routine in which we show off our riding ability. And we use things that we've used in battles. So it's all about, so sometimes you can be really close to one another, and it's sometimes a bit dangerous, but it's all for a good show. And
it's military-inspired choreography.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much it. Nail on the head, actually, yeah.
So you've got this today, and then presumably lots of preparations coming up for the big bank holiday weekend and the celebrations. How do you get prepared, and how do you prepare the horses too?
Well, with the horses, we exercise them daily, and we train them up to do these sort of things. My horse is quite a young horse, so he needs a lot more training than some of the older horses would, as he will spook at plant pots and things like that. Silly things, even though in London he's used to big double-decker buses. But as a soldier side, it's completely different. I'll be chilling out on a night time. I listen to my music. I'll sort my kit out, and then be in my own time. I'll have maybe a few drinks on the evening with my friends, and yeah, you just find a way for yourself to unwind. So when we do train the horses, we also train ourselves, and that's when we learn these routines. And then things for like the Platinum Jubilee, that's when we learn as well. During the day, we'll have officers and the non-commissioned officers giving us what we need to do and telling us what to do, really.
Well, a horse that's being told what to do right now is with Caitlin. Let's come over here and be introduced. Can you tell us, who is this?
This is Ronnie, so he's my horse for the musical ride. We're second lead and file position, so when we split into sort of two rides, we take the front, and he's doing really well with that. He's quite brave, quite puts himself out there.
So how would you be preparing today?
So today we've got all the kit ready. We'll start grooming the horses before we get ready to get on top. They'll be cleaned and groomed so that they're all ready to have their tack put on. And then we'll start putting the saddles on, getting our kit ready, and then we can get ready to get on top ourselves.
Getting things sorted. Thank you very much, and thank you for letting us come and sort of intrude a little bit as preparations get underway. Lots of people here really excited just because the celebrations have started. There is this sort of celebratory mood as competitions get underway, and that really, I can say truthfully, of everyone I've spoken to today. Earlier it was 14-year-olds riding ponies in this sort of like almost Olympic style games that they're doing, and then of course we've got the more ceremony, the procession, the performance element of it as well.
Oh, Rosie, thank you so much. I do have to say, I thought it was much sunnier than it was, but I'd still rather be there, I'll have to say, with that beautiful horse who's putting on a show. Thank you, Rosie. See you later.
Right, and now let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you might have missed. So, the parents of a 6-year-old boy who recently ran a marathon have revealed that they were visited by Child Protective Services over it.
Yes, well, Ben and Cammie Crawford let their son, Rainier, run the 26.2-mile Flying Pig Marathon in Ohio with them on the 1st of May, posting pictures on their social media. But Ben said the Child Protection Officer suspected from their online post that the parents had physically dragged the 6-year-old along on the marathon and took the boy away for questioning. 6 years old. While Ben insists the family were just holding hands and maintains that their 6-year-old did actually want to run the marathon. So basically, a child's come along with his parents on a marathon. Somebody's called social services. They've said it's child abuse.
Yeah, but I mean, if they were going to apply this to everything, you know, me getting dragged around Tesco's by my mum when I was like 2 years old or something like that. I mean, yeah, I'd have been sent into care.
Can a 6-year-old consent to running a marathon though? They have a point.
Running, it's just running.
It's just the bit. So people need to get a life really. Who's reporting somebody for their child going on a charity run or whatever?
You would imagine that, especially in America, the police would have a bit more on. But anyway, the UK's oldest homeowner, 106-year-old Winifred Fleming, good name that, has revealed she bought her Kent home way back in 1945. Forget this. Just £800 and still has no plans to move out anytime soon.
Yes, well, her West Wickham house is now worth £550,000. The equivalent sum she paid for it would be just under £38,000 today. Well, good for her, I say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Winifred. I like that name as well. Winifred's a great name.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think. And she's 106 as well.
And also,
incredible.
That is incredible, actually, yes, indeed. Now, a Welsh man has won a court battle over a parking fine after he refused to pay it because it wasn't in Welsh. One Parking Solutions had sent Tony, can't pronounce his surname, a fine after he had overstayed in a car park. Tony Schiavone? No way.
No.
Oh, well, yeah, cool. Yeah, of course, he's called Tony Schiavone. Fantastic name again. Anyway, he overstayed in the village of Llangorog, but he took umbrage at the fact that the fine was in English and therefore refused to pay it.
Well, the company brought him to civil court, but the case was thrown out after One Parking Solutions failed to appear. Hey, he played...
Hang on a second, there's no way. This is the only time a traffic warden's never shown up, isn't it? Traffic wardens are you can't move a traffic warden.
Well, good for him, I say.
Yeah, well done, Tony Schiavone.
Use any loopholes you want.
Yeah, he sounds like an Italian mob boss, doesn't he? Hey, Tony Schiavone. Anyway, right, for a limited time only, visitors to the Hispanic American Museum of Art in Buenos Aires will be able to touch the figures in the paintings of old masters.
Yes, more specifically, they'll be able to touch and feel the breasts of the women in some of art's most famous paintings, checking them for lumps, skin Oh, that's no fun. Skin retractions or swollen lymph nodes as part of a campaign to educate people on the sign of breast cancer. Women from the works of Raphael, Rubens and Rembrandt will be featured in this very interactive exhibit. But that's...
well, I mean, I suppose if it's done... We're allowed to show that at this time in the morning. I suppose if it's done for, you know, to raise awareness, that's great. But you would wonder whether or not everyone who went up to touch the breast was doing it to raise awareness.
Yeah, I'd be a bit suspicious of why. OK, so a woman...
Yeah, what are you doing today, Gary? I'm just going down the old Hispanic American Buenos Aires Museum. Yeah, no, they've got this exhibit on. No, I'm really into it. Yeah, I've always been really into my art, you know. Absolutely. Going on your own, Gary? Yeah, I am,
Suspicious characters might be found there.
Exactly.
But in other breast-related news and banned advert news, the Advertising Standards Authority banned a post by Adidas after receiving 24 complaints that their use of female nudity was gratuitous and reduced women to body parts. Well, the tweet posted in February showed 20 pairs of breasts, full front of breasts, alongside the caption, "We believe women's breasts in all shapes and sizes deserve support and comfort," which is why our new range, sports bra range, contains 43 styles, so everyone can find the right fit for them. So I think they got taken down because of, well, the nudity, I guess. And also because people thought they were reducing women. But it's a sports bra.
I suppose they're quite literally supporting.
Yeah, well, exactly. I just find it odd that people are offended by boobs.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I mean, The Sun used to do something similar on Page 3 every day, and they were... You know, that went on for years. So Adidas had got cancelled immediately.
Maybe The Sun could actually make...
Here we go.
There's a business idea here. They could make touchable...
That's the way The Sun could bring back...
3D breasts.
They could bring back Page 3 by dressing up and saying that they were doing it for some kind of bra charity or something. Yes, maybe. Just spitballing here, guys. Just spitballing here. But I think... I think we'll do some views now, save us from ourselves. GB Views at gbnews.uk. So lots of people getting in touch, surprisingly, not about the boobs, but there we go. So, the Queen's mobility, this is from Alison. What is it with that generation where they won't be seen in a wheelchair? Bring on the Queen, says Alison. I said something quite similar. Look, bless her, obviously she's allowed to do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
She's the Queen. But I kind of feel the same way. I'd just like to see her, really. And I think that, you know, she could just use a wheelchair, maybe. I don't know.
I think it's her choice. Rod says, hi, one portion of cod and chips in Wisbech, a relatively poor town, £8 upwards.
Sure.
I can buy enough fresh fish and potatoes from the supermarket to feed 4 people on 2 meals. I know because I've done it. So this is in relation to Lee Anderson's comments about how poorer people can avoid using food banks if they're given skills to learn how to use their money to buy more food, essentially. So lots of people talking about this as well. Audrey says, I'm 78 years old and managed with little money for £10 a gammon joint, leeks, turnips, carrots, pulses, and Sue gives me 16 large potatoes, which I freeze and defrost. So people are doing this up and down the country anyway. Many people think it was good advice.
Maybe we should do something on this tomorrow, actually, and just see. I might do something when I go, see what I can get for £3, what kind of meal I can cook for £3, and just see if it's particularly doable. But there we go. Anyway, right, well, look, thank you very, very much, everybody who's been getting in touch. Fantastic to have you all on the show. An eclectic range of stories here, wasn't it, from the Rwanda migrant planting.
Your favourite, of course, was the boobs, the fond little boobs.
Well, I don't know. I really enjoyed that bit about the Northern Ireland Protocol. But anyway, right, we're going to go to the weather now. Gloria De Piero is next. Don't miss it.
Hello, Alex Deacon here with your latest weather updates. Dry, bright and a bit breezy sums up the weather for most today. It won't be completely dry. There will be some showers across western Scotland and Northern Ireland caused by this little weather feature which is slowly drifting in. For most places, though, it is going to be a fairly benign kind of weather day. Yes, there's a fair bit of cloud around, but some places seeing some decent spells of sunshine, parts of eastern England in particular, and at times across parts of northern England, some sunshine on the south coast as well. But generally a lot of cloud, but a lot of dry weather for England, Wales and eastern Scotland. But northwest Scotland's staying fairly soggy, and there'll be a few showers drifting into the west of Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland. A cooler feel here as well with a brisk breeze. Elsewhere, temperatures around average, high teens, maybe up to 20 in the sunshine across Essex and Kent. As we go through this evening, we'll see a bit more of that showery rain drifting south through southern Scotland into northern England, North Wales, maybe even a shower or two over Lincolnshire and the Midlands for a time. But that all scoots away by dawn, and again, most of us will start Friday dry. Quite a mild night, double digits in many towns and cities. On to Friday, and quite a lot of clouds. Certainly initially, the sunshine fairly hazy over England and Wales, but generally a fine day here. Dry and bright too for Northern Ireland with some sunshine. Again, it'll be northwestern parts of Scotland that see the rain, spreading more widely across the Northern Isles through the day. Quite soggy across the Highlands, but through the central belt, southern Scotland, most places dry. Plenty of afternoon sunshine across England and Wales, and a warmer day as well. Temperatures could get up to 23 across the eastern parts of England. There will be a bit more of a breeze blowing during Friday, but still very pleasant conditions through Friday evening. Still a few scattered showers across the northwest, but for most places, high pressure is moving in during Friday, and that will bring most of us a fine day on Saturday as well, with some warm sunshine. There is the likelihood, though, of some thunderstorms coming up from the south on Saturday night and Sunday.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubilee, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubilee, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on